Well, welcome to Pest Control Millionaire episode number 6. Today's episode we have Libby DeLucien. Am I saying that correctly?
DeLucien.
That was pretty close.
Close.
You're from Florida, is that correct? What city in Florida are you from?
Yeah, Fort Myers, Florida.
You guys just got hit with a hurricane?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that. That was pretty brutal. Just seeing all the pictures and talking to you. And then you organize it, a cleaning company?
Yeah, so I'm the owner of Organize It. We do professional organizing and residential cleaning.
Yeah, so this podcast is not just pest control or lawn care related. It is more of the service industry and just talking to the top 1% of companies out there who are just crushing it. And that's why we brought you on. And then I love you too, so that doesn't hurt.
Oh, I love you too, Jonas.
So
Thank you.
Libby and I met. We were sitting at I think we were outside of a conference. I think we were in Dallas at the time. Can't remember exactly where we were. And it was an after party. And there's this lady walk in. I never met her before. And she happened to be sitting by me. And she started talking. I'm like, man, this lady's sharp. Like, I've never met her. Where's she from? And then I think we talked the rest of the night for the most part. And then we've been friends ever since. And I think everyone who listens to this podcast will be shocked at how bright this lady is and how incredible she is. So welcome to the podcast, Libby.
Awesome. Thank you. And I do remember that that day. I think it was Chicago, actually.
Chicago or...
Yeah,
somewhere.
or it could have been Dallas. I don't know. And
it was
then
somewhere kind of cold because the heaters were on outside. And we were looking over that band. So maybe you're right. Maybe it was Chicago. Mm-hmm. And you're probably right.
Yeah, I've just known Jonas ever since, and we've been fortunate enough to be a group together, and just super smart in sales, man. Every time I have a sales question, I'm like, Jonas.
Yeah, you take me in that. It's funny you take me into that post, the other day. You and I were going back and forth on, and then I heard his talk was more about what you and I talked about rather than what he talked about. Yeah, so it's kind of funny that comment made him have a little bit of mindset shift.
Absolutely.
The new ways are working, just getting more expensive. So going back to the old school tactics of marketing actually are starting to work again because people they're all in the same place going after the same leads. And they're just competing against each other. And it's just, like I said, it's not getting any cheaper online. So figure out some offline marketing tactics that work really good in your market. And every market's a little bit different, from door hangers, some places like HOA, so when you hang them, every door direct mailers. Some people don't like those, but they're starting to work again.
I agree. And I think sometimes we get out of that because we're just a little bit lazy, right? Because that takes a little bit of effort hitting the pavement and we may not have that person to do it. And we're kind of like, oh, I don't want to have to do that again. Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like that's been my role the last 2 years in our company, as the CEO, but I've been handling more of the sales and sales and marketing side, headhunting that. And, I've just really got down to the small details of what really, really works in our market and where we're seeing the most return. And, our sales guys do well, but, the every door direct mailers and the postcards and door hangers are actually starting to do really well again, too. And, before, we were seeing a lower percentage of people calling in from them, but it's really gone up lately. So, like I said, that's why I recommended on that Facebook group or that page and just say, hey, try these things again. But Libby, let's take you back from when you first got into the cleaning industry or how you got into business. Like, what's your story?
So I used to have, it wasn't a corporate job. I wouldn't say that. It was for a Fortune 500 company. And I, really worked in the operations aspect of that and, had to quit because of my kids needed more of my time. So I took about a year off trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. And previously I've owned bars, I've owned other things, owned my own business, never been an actual employee. Even when I worked for that company, I was a subcontracted in. So I've never been an employee. And when I had to quit and figure out what I wanted to do with myself, I spent some time and, my husband said to me, he goes, you should be an organizer. You're really organized. And I was like, no one would pay me to do that. And he's like, yeah, people pay other people to mow their lawn and do their taxes. And they know how to do those things either, or they can do those things. They either don't know how, or they don't have time. So you're going to laugh. I went to the library and checked out every book I could find on organizing. And oddly enough, there was a lot, and just started to read and research online. And the more I found out about it, the more I fell in love with that service. And so I started that originally. It was just me. And I did that in 2014. And then in 2018, I added the cleaning side of our service, which I had this crazy idea that I wanted to make money without working. I just thought, oh, hire people to do this cleaning, and it's just going to bring me all this money because it's recurring revenue, where organizing is not recurring revenue. It's project-based or one-off. And that was not the smartest idea. It was a smart idea. I love it. But the whole not working and making money was not true. It was far from the reality. It takes a lot of work. And so we're just, because it's a field service. So we're constantly managing people, whether they're clients or employees.
Yeah.
And that was it. We started the cleaning. I didn't know anything about cleaning. Never had my house clean. You know, I'm half Mexican and half Native American. And, you know, Saturday morning is you get your butt up and you clean the house, you know, and there is no having a cleaner. So the more I learned about it, I like that, because it wasn't just for the rich anymore. It's actually pretty common to have a cleaning company. So we've just exploded. And yes, I cleaned for a year, and I am a horrible cleaner. I did it. I only did it to learn like the ins and outs in the industry and like how it worked and how to price it and all that stuff. I was a horrible cleaner. But then soon found a program, kind of like we had with Academy and Elite. Found a program with a mentor to really help me build that and take it to the next level. And so I'm really grateful to have stumbled upon that. And so now we're here today. And
so where did you find your first mentor?
I found her online. I was desperate.
I think that's how we all change, right?
Yeah, I was desperate. So, you know, in sales, I was talking about when somebody looks for a service, or, you know, you're in a point of pain, and that's where I was at, right? I came to pain, and I was looking for a solution. And I was pregnant at the time with my daughter, Yaya, which she's famous on my Facebook page. But I needed to not go back to the field. I was desperate. I'm like, I can't go back. None of my kids had ever been put in daycare. I've always had them around me. But with this one, it was different because I had this field service, and I had no trust for my employees, which is sad to say, because I had no processes. I had no systems down. And I was searching online and found her, and finally found her, and her name's Debbie Sardone, and signed up July of 2018, like, because we just started the cleaning company earlier that year, and really trying to get myself together. And that right there was probably one of the changing moments for our cleaning side of the company.
So you started the company in 2018, the cleaning company. Mm-hmm. And within that first year, you already hired Debbie as a mentor.
Yeah.
And then from there, you said there was a turning point. As soon as you found a mentor, been there, done that, helped you through all the problems that you were facing. They're like, yeah, those are easy to them, but hard to us, because you get in the thick of the weeds, and you kind of get caught up. And then you get that mentor who can just take you from like working in the business to looking on the business, and just really working through those problems. Like, it's one way to scale super fast in any industry.
Yeah, they've already made all the mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? They're saving us time. A lot of people are like, why should I sign up for a mentor? I can do all those things myself. You could, but it's going to take you much longer. By hiring a mentor, it's going to accelerate you.
For sure. So,
and you're going to miss those costly mistakes.
So let's be honest. Like, when you started your business in 2018, could you afford that mentor at the time?
No.
Right. And that's for most of us. That's why I asked. And I never asked that before, but most of us can't afford it. But we can't afford not to do it. But you don't. No. You just have to make that mindset. Like, I have to figure this out. You make it work, right? But that first month for myself, that one first session with JP, like, probably made me a couple $100,000, probably millions by at this point. You know, to be honest. Yeah. So it's like you can't afford not to get a mentor. Would you agree?
No. I mean, I agree. And I think the reason most people drag their feet or don't see the value initially is because they're not in enough pain, right?
Yeah.
You're only experiencing like a little bit of pain. I was in a tremendous amount of pain because I didn't want to continue cleaning. I wanted to raise my daughter. Like I wanted to be home. And that was the only thing I was focused on. So I had to figure out like, it's like not having a choice. I had to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's probably most of us. Like I said, I was in a lot of pain. Same thing with software. Like I was just like beat my head off the wall. Like I can't figure this out. Like using Excel spreadsheets and paper routes. And back in the day, it was not good. But then he found, the software that we use today, and then finding the mentors to help you out through it. And there's a lot of people out there who are willing to help. You just got to go find them and pay the money. Nothing's free, right?
No, I mean, there's a lot of sayings, you get what you pay for. If you pay attention.
Yeah.
No. And so, I'm not a huge company in relation to some people out there, right? Our cleaning company is reaching close to 2 million now. I own another company that's over 1 million.
Oh, we'll get there.
And I'm fixing to start another company. So
sweet.
Just wait for that one. But the amount of money I spend in learning and mentors, I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm in 4 groups. I have 4 different mentors.
Now, is that for each business, or is there some personal? What does that look like? Do you have for each aspect of your life, like a gym coach or a training coach or like business coaches? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I have a personal, right? I have a cleaning coach. I have one that is field service specifically. And then I have a SaaS coach.
Nice.
Right. So I have SaaS, field service, cleaning, and like a personal coach.
So when you decided on your coaches, were those recommendations from other people, or did you find them all the same way? Like online?
No, I think they were all recommendations online, except for Debbie was the first one I hired, and she was searching online initially.
So then how did you find JP?
Actually, Paul Fasthauer, and Mike Callahan.
Oh yeah.
I was always been friends with Mike, and he's like, "You need to be in this group. This is so you. Like, you would love it here. You would love that group." And he's like, "I can drop your name if you want to try to get in." And so just hearing Paul's feedback, and then Mike's, and then just being in an academy, and then hearing what other people say about Elite made me want to continue on to the next.
Yeah. So with your SaaS mentor, do you think JP has helped in that side of things too, or has he more just been the field service for you?
No. So I mentioned that in my video that like JP didn't just teach me how to be a good field service owner. He taught me how to be an amazing software owner.
Yeah. Right.
To take criticism and recommendations with I have never seen someone take it with so much grace and humility, and always acknowledge, yes, it's not perfect, but we're trying, or we're working on it. And I have been able to reach out to him for some advice, and Paul as well, because he's the other owner of the SaaS, for advice when it comes to the software specifically. So
let's talk about it since we're bringing it up. Your software company is recruiting, correct?
Yes. And one quick thing is I took that SaaS coach off a recommendation from someone else, not knowing that was the group that JP was in.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me before, actually.
For SA.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
you focus mainly on recruiting, and we knew we were going to talk about this today. And when did that business start? I know you met Paul. When did that kind of take place, and how did that transpire?
March of 2019 is when I'd already known Paul. I got invited because I do consulting for under Debbie Sardone consulting, right? Only teaching and coaching cleaning companies. And I was in Dallas, March 19. It was March 17, 2019. And it was right when COVID was like, everything was shutting down. We were in Dallas at a conference, and she had asked me to be a speaker on a process that I had created for my company, which is what WootRecruit is now, an automated process. And Paul was in the audience, and he was like, "Oh my God, this was worth my whole trip. Like this right here, it's going to change my company." And he's like, "Can you help me implement this into my company?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, I don't even know if we're going to get home, because it was everything was shut down.
Yeah.
And we did that. I think we started it in right away when we got back. It was in April because we had left that towards the end of March. And when we got it up and he had it turned on from, I believe it was June until like September, he had almost like, he had doubled his staff. He went from 17 to 32.
That's impressive.
With little to no effort. And then he approached me that September and said, hey, like, do you want to make this, do you want to partner together and make this a company? I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, you didn't even think about it.
That was, that was my next question. Did, like, when you built it, did you plan on it going anywhere, or was that just something that you were going to use internally?
No, I was just using it internally because, again, I had just had my daughter. So I had this newborn and I was wasting all this time with like looking at Indeed and applications and making phone calls and looking at resumes, all for someone to show up.
Yeah. And now it's just strictly automated, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, no, it's not 100% automated. So me and Paul partnered together and started it. We didn't even have our first customer till like 2020. So we're just 2 years old. And we hit our $1 million rate. It was a few months ago. It was like October, I think.
And then being part of the service industry and, you know, connecting with a bunch of people, going networking, that probably helped your business a lot on that SaaS business as well.
It helped a lot because my credibility and just being a consultant for Debbie, it really, really helped a lot. The fact that, and I didn't even know I was doing this, but building up my reputation on that back end.
For sure.
It was a fast ride to $1 million. Like me and Paul were like, oh my God. And that's why we started to look for a coach, because we were like, you know, we don't know what we're doing. We need help.
For sure. So with let's talk about Recruit. What exactly do you guys do?
So we are SaaS. We're a service as a software, and every SaaS has a different amount of service and software they provide. Like some could be like 20, 80 or 40, 60, 50, 50. So we have the service side, which is we are going to be an extension of your recruiting department. We're going to take over that seat, and we write your ads. We manage your Indeed account. We do everything. We have tools to look at demographic, what area you're targeting, household income is a good fit. And so we get very, very specific and niche-y. And it's like a concierge done for you kind of service. We manage your calendar, you know, with your input.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who use you guys and are absolutely in love with it. So I know it's been a really good thing. So
yes. And then we have the software side, right? Which is where all the automations and all that stuff come into play. So we have those two sides to the SaaS.
So who runs the service side and who runs the software side?
So they're together, right? Well, they're not together, but because we have an ops seat, which is the service side, and we have a dev team, which is the software side. So Chris runs the ops seat. He's our ops manager. I sit as the visionary, and we just hired a brand new fractional integrator. So we practice EOS, and that has been a very enlightening experience to hire a fractional integrator.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where did you find the integrator?
So that was Paul's rock, is to find us a fractional integrator. It was originally Chris, and we grew so fast that poor Chris didn't have experience to manage all these seats. So we hired the fractional. If you don't know what a fractional is, or if you've never heard of it, you can hire high-level people with experience for a fraction of the price, but they're with you for a fraction of the time. But you get some really great knowledge that comes with that. And Paul just looked around. We're very in the EOS community. So we asked, I know some implementers. So we started emailing people that we knew and collected sources. And Paul just started interviewing people.
So when you run ads, is it specifically to technicians, cleaners? Is it to CSR? Is it all of that? Or do you guys like go after the higher level people as well, like the CFOs, CEOs, things like that?
Yeah, typically that's just an add-on of if you're already using us, because there's a setup fee and it is recurring. Like there's no contract, but ultimately it's like house cleaning. We want you to keep using our service.
Yep.
And typically we can add it on. We have it all built out to hire those high level hires. But those high level hires are typically a one-off.
For sure. So if someone was looking for a CFO or a COO, they could just come strictly to you. You would help them recruit them as well.
We can, yes. That's not our favorite thing to do. Our niche is that high turnover industry. Okay. And then we can add on those higher level positions as they're needed, like a scheduler, field manager. Yes.
So what does that look like? So say we hire you, or someone hires you, you just run all the ads for them, and then all of a sudden these people just come to them. Do they show up in person? Do they show up on email? Do they show up on Zoom? How do you guys handle that process?
So yes, we take that over and we start to advertise for you. We write the ads because it's just like a Google AdWords writer. We know keywords, we know cost per word, we know all that good stuff. And people start showing up at your door for in-person interviews, and you will have their information in your dashboard, like their resume or their application. And we have automations built out the whole way to like a yes and no button, whether you're going to hire them, and the automations trigger emails and a series of things. Yeah,
that's really cool. Like I said, I've used it before and it's awesome. What's really cool though is like you're building a business, but you're making an impact on other people's businesses as well. So that's got to be a pretty good feeling.
It is a very surreal feeling. When some people are like, I couldn't have reached the $1 million rate, or, we hit our goals because you guys helped us so much with the recruiting. So it wasn't intentional, but it's what's coming out, and it's a great feeling.
That's really cool. So if someone was looking to find you or Woot recruited specifically, where would they find you at?
So if you're just looking to find me for the cleaning or the field staff or even Woot recruit, I'm the only Libby DeLucien in the world, by the way.
Wow.
So you could Google my name, or you could just Facebook message me, or you could just email me. It's libby@wootrecruit.com. But I'm very easy to find.
For sure. You mentioned that you're the visionary. Have you always been a visionary since you were young? Is that something that you just became the last few years? Or how did you decide that you were going to be the one that was a visionary?
So I feel that I am a natural visionary. I've taken all those EOS tests and all that stuff. I sit as the visionary for Organize It. And me and Paul were sharing the visionary seat, which is kind of an interesting mix. But he was heading it up more earlier in the year. And we've just recently switched to me sitting as full visionary with the new integrator, with our new fractional integrator. But I think it's something that I've always been, because I've always had businesses. So I think it's just something that comes natural.
Yeah, I'm the same. You and I are very, very similar when it comes to that. How did you guys decide who was going to be the visionary? Did your coach help you with that, with you and Paul? Because I know Paul's a visionary too.
Yes, he's a visionary too. So it's interesting to have two visionaries. Apparently this is normal, in software, to have two co-founders. It was a mutual decision because originally I asked him to sit as the visionary. Because I was just going to be co-visionary. Things just, we would have our own same page meetings, but he was going to be leading the integrator originally. And then we got a new integrator, and he said that he needs a little bit more time in his other business. And I have time to devote to Woot Recruit because Organize It is fully functional without me. So we decided that because I have time and there's a new integrator, it'd be best if we put me in that seat.
Was that a hard decision for Paul, or was it pretty easy?
No, I think everyone was on the same page. Even Chris, who sits in our ops, and the integrator, kind of all agreed and had already come to that. And I asked Paul, I said, Paul, what are you going to do what if you lose the visionary seat at Dirtbusters too? Cause they're restructuring there too. And I said, he goes, oh my gosh, what a bad thing to have more time.
For sure. And he's doing some big things, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. So we were joking. And, I do think that it's a struggle for internally, that I've dealt with when certain things happen in our companies. we hire a new manager or an ops manager, and then you have to remove yourself from that seat. There's an internal struggle with like, now what do I do with my time? What do I do with myself? How do I up level myself to continue to grow out of these seats? But one of my good mentors said, a 6 can't lead a 9. So you're moving out of these seats, but if you're still a 6 and you're hiring 9s and you expect these people to be 9s, 6 can't lead a 9.
I love that. So have you ever, there's a book, The Law of the Lid by John Maxwell, talks about that. Like you can only go as high as, you can only bring your team as high as you can go. So that resonates well. That 6 can't lead a 9. That's awesome.
So Austin asked, well, Mom, why can't you just be a 10? And I said, well, honey, Michael Jordan, the best basketball player in the world, wasn't a 10. That's why he practiced every day. There was still room for improvement.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good. That'll definitely make one of those short clips. That's sick. So you said that your service business is fully functional after 5 years. You started in 2018, right? If I got that correct. Mm-hmm. And now it's fully operational.
Well, the cleaning was added to.
Well, it's fully operational without you even being there in 5 years. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty fast. How did you get through that? Was it EOS? Was it coaching? Like what helped you get out of your business completely?
So I don't think it's one answer. The coaching really helped tremendously. EOS taught me patience, which is if you're a visionary, you have 0 patience, right? And EOS taught me patience because it's instead of interrupting my team, it's put it on the issues list. It doesn't matter how big of an issue. Put it on the issues list. We'll talk about it together. Yep. So we weren't doing it. There was no interruptions or no in runs. And then EOS helps you hold your team accountable without you being the bad guy.
For sure. So Dalton was just here the other day and we were working on some video stuff and he's like, man, I've never met anyone who just gets stuff done. And then he asked me a question. He's like, well, we can wait till later. I'm like, no, that's not how we operate. Like when things like get in our head, we have to figure it out right now and then. That's just how we work. Like I have to get it done. And so they always say that if you need to get stuff done, give it to a busy person.
Yeah.
Because we just get stuff done. This is how we operate. So then you started doing coaching. How long have you been doing coaching and how did that come about? I know you talked about Debbie a little bit. She kind of asked you to speak, but then where did it evolve from there?
It was the same year I started Woot Recruit. And that was a concern from Debbie and Paul. Debbie had asked me, she brought in some coaches for her cleaning business fundamentals. It is a structured course for the residential cleaning industry. And she's like, but you're starting this with Paul. Can you handle it? And I'm like, yeah. I'm very compartmentalized. I'm very organized. And that has been great. It has taught me, it's taught me how to be I think the greatest thing that I've taken from coaching so far is how to be a really great leader to my office staff, right? It's taught me how to talk to people, how to ask the appropriate questions. Because in coaching, if you're doing it right, you're never supposed to be giving them the answer.
Right.
Right? You're supposed to ask them enough questions that they come to the proper conclusion themselves because they're more likely to follow through and believe it versus you just telling somebody the answer. So that came about in 2020. Yeah, because I'm 2 years in, 2020. And it's been great. So I consult. I don't do so much one-to-one coaching anymore. One, it's not scalable for my time. My time is limited. So I'm kind of transitioning out of that one-to-one with Debbie, and we're doing more one-to-many. So I'm doing more classes, more webinars. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. And you were just about to tell me, but how do you, and you said you're very organized. That's why you have organized it. But how do you handle running multiple companies at once?
So I'm very structured in my day. I just organize my calendar. I live by my calendar. I do time blocks, but more per day. So like certain days of the week, I work on certain companies.
Same.
And they're devoted to that company. So I try not to switch on and off too much. So, like Mondays are for maybe organize it, where Tuesday through Thursday is Woot Recruit and coaching is on Friday.
That's so funny because I operate the same way. Like I work on one project or one business per day or, but kind of like what you do. So we've never talked about that before, but we operate our schedule the same way. I live and die by my calendar as well. I'm not as organized as you are. I have other people that keep me organized. People like yourself.
In some of my coaching sessions or in some of the private groups we're in, like I've showed because people are like, I can't figure out how to organize my emails. I'm like, here's a glimpse of my email account, like just the way I just organize and label my emails in Google Drive. And it saves you a tremendous amount of time. Yeah.
You've sent me some of your Google Docs, and they're very, very well organized. So when you're coaching, like you said, you were doing one-to-ones, right? People were calling, connecting with you, consulting like on a weekly, monthly, bi-weekly basis.
Monthly.
Monthly.
Yeah, monthly.
So now you're just doing more of like a group session, but are you recording them and using them for the next people coming up, or is it always a new content? How do you operate that?
So it's basically new content. We are recording them for an LMS to collect them in the LMS. But it's basically new content, and it's teaching that one to many. So maybe we're teaching them in cleaning business fundamentals, teaching literally the last one I did was like how to organize your Google Drive was one of the ones I did. So it's not always recruiting. My passion is really systems and processes. And, cause that's where WooWooCrew was born from. Organize It was born from my passion for, being organized in systems. So that's at the heart of what I like to do is the systems and processes, which I found is everybody's struggle.
Absolutely. Do you actually hire, like someone needs their SOPs written? Do you have someone that writes yours? Do you write people's? Or how do you do that? I hired it out. Like that's not my thing. Like I found a guy, that's what he does. I'm hiring that guy. He wrote all of our standard operating procedures. Like I can't do that, but having that set in place has like been one of the best things we've ever done.
Oh yeah. So I just literally did a talk about this very topic in Vegas. And the options were hire it out, have your office, start it. But it is something that I can do, but it's actually what the next thing I'm working on does for people.
That's awesome. Well, look at that. So I just figured out what your next business is by asking the right questions. When do you think that a person should implement standard operating procedures? Like, is there a revenue mark? Like from the day one? Is it like $1 million? Like, where do you think that falls into place?
Oh my gosh. I think from day one, because it's in our head and we can't get it out. And then all of a sudden we have staff and we want to hire somebody for the office and you have no systems or process for that. And I have failed so many times hiring for the office because I didn't have it ready. I was there revenue wise, but I didn't have it ready, and it takes too long to capture if you're trying to sit down and do it.
Yeah.
So,
but those will constantly be evolving, correct? Your SOPs will always be changing. So how often do you think they have to update them as well?
So in the talk that I did and what I'm teaching people is videos aren't always the best way to do SOPs, because a lot of people want to just do a loom and call it a day, but you can't edit a loom, right? You can't go and update it. What if your software makes a tweak? What if you just change one part of the process? So videos are easy, and we all like video and our staff likes to watch video. But at the end of the day, it's not the best way to do it. You could have some supporting articles inside that SOP that's a video. But I highly recommend super simple Google Doc, title, and in it, always have a date. And that date will reflect the last time it was edited. And you want to put like your North Star. What's the reason of this? And then what's good outcome look like? What's bad? And then you go through the steps and you provide supporting document in there that's linking back to, here's the key, other training. You don't have to make every training. Go on YouTube and find a good sales training or a good way to wash windows. Use other people's training that's out there already free to support your SOPs.
I love that. Do you keep all of your SOPs in your Google Docs, or do you have a CSR or a CRM just for those, like a Trainual or something like that?
So I have mine. I made my own on my own website.
I've actually been in the back of your website, and it's pretty awesome. You showed it to me before, and it's very impressive.
Looks even better now.
It was very impressive. Like each person had their own login. They could log into the backside. All of their training, all of their videos were all in there. It was really, really cool.
Yeah. So we actually have two we have a login and SOPs for field staff, and then we have one for office staff.
So what was the reasoning behind that? Why didn't you want to use a separate platform? It's just too many softwares at once. I know you and I talked about that before. Like, at what point do you stop using other softwares? Like, every day there's new ones that pop up.
Yeah. So being an owner of a software, it's like, I'm going to say this, but like, it's just too many softwares, right? Once you reach over $1 million, we were adding too many layers of complexity, like too many logins, too many softwares, too many passwords. My poor office staff, when they would have to have like 100 tabs open. So, once I got to like $1.5 million, I started to scale back, and I'm like, we don't need all this stuff. Scale back. And, from those little shiny objects that you see, like a new thing come out, you're like, oh, that looks fun. Like, oh, that might make our job easier. And so it really started to scale back and just focus on using Service Autopilot to its fullest, right? Whether it's great or not, I don't care. We're just using it to its fullest. And then we house a lot of stuff on our website, a lot of stuff on the back end of our website, which is, when I say back end, it's just not visible to the public. They're hidden pages. Yeah. And it also helps my SEO. No, not that much though. No, we just added that because it was just there. We were already paying for that platform. So why not use it? Yeah,
that's great. And like I said, I remember the first time I looked at it, I'm like, man, this is awesome. I got to do the same thing. But we haven't done that either. We're still using Trainual, and we got Lightspeed. We have, again, a bunch of different logins that like we talked about before. It just makes you laugh. And that's why I did laugh, because we're the same way. We have endless stuff to go watch and look and learn. And being a quick start, I like the shiny objects. I'm like, oh, this will be awesome. Let's do that. Out of all these businesses, though, which one do you like the most? Like,
gosh,
where do you feel like the most energized from?
So, okay, I love coaching, but I honestly don't like one-to-one coaching.
Yeah.
I've shared that with Debbie and Diana, her executive assistant. Because I feel like the delivery could just be so much bigger versus one-to-one.
Yeah.
More impactful. Sorry. And then with my field service, I love my employees. Like, I love changing people's lives. I enjoy it. But at the end of the day, I really love the SaaS, because as a visionary and as a quick start, the SaaS is exponential, right? The amount of people you can touch and the amount of things you can do is exponential.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's probably why we're sitting on this podcast. That's the direction we're headed,
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. Like, I feel like I can help so many more people, and I'm a quick start, and, there's more to it than just that. But like, I at this point in my career, I just want to help others, get past those same challenges that we had, like, from 0 to 250, 250 to 500, 500 to 1 million, 1 to 2, and just helping them get through that and working with them to, make their lives better as well. Because if we didn't have our mentor, we would never be where we were either. Now I just feel like it's our turn to give back. We're at a spot in our career where we can actually have a little bit of time to help other people as well. So I get the most, gratitude from helping other people at this point in my career. Like, it's not about the money. It's not about me. It's just more about just helping others succeed in what they're doing too. Whether it's pest control, cleaning, it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, they're pretty much the same business. You guys are inside, we're outside. But just helping those people scale,
Absolutely.
So with the SaaS business, like, is it all online? Did you create like a coaching platform? How does that work? Like, with your coaching part of it, like, is it all like, do you have somewhere they can watch your videos? Like, do they just call once a month? How do you make that work? Like, with our coaching group, we meet once a month, right? But then there's videos you can go back to and watch it. Is that something that you did too, or is it a little bit different structure?
No, actually, we have that. We built out an LMS. It's fairly new. Because originally they were just being streamed on Facebook, and then those were like, that's a horrible way to organize them. No one can find them or go back and they get buried. But we built out an LMS where we went through and downloaded everything, some things that were not streamed on Facebook, because some are sensitive, right? You don't want them in the just general population. So we went through and we have an LMS, and it's actually done, and it's not live yet, but we are going to, it should be live next week, but we have that LMS so they can go back. So in Woot Recruit, I don't do so much coaching as I do teaching, right? So I do teaching on, and I try to be very, very specific to recruiting, because that's what we love to do. And that's what we do. And that's where I see the biggest struggle right now is in that recruiting realm of hiring and retaining people. I just did a webinar 2 nights ago on like the 2023 hiring trends for this year, for this coming year. And so it was, and I don't charge for any of these. Like, they're just so insightful. And I have this information because I'm an owner of a recruiting company. So I'm in recruiting groups, and I felt inclined that I have to share this information with everybody.
Yeah. So back to the LMS thing. So they can just go on. Is it going to be like a subscription model? Is it like a yearly pay, or how do you even work that?
My LMS is just included with Woot Recruit. So it's Woot Recruit customers.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. And then since you brought up recruiting again, and this is your jam, and this is what you're great at, like, what do you think one of the biggest challenges people are finding right now with hiring people?
We're in a really weird kind of, are we in a recession? Are we not? I'm not getting political. I'm not going to go there. Some say we are and some say we're not. And so a lot of people had a misconception that because we were in a recession or getting in one, that hiring is going to get easier. So some people have let off the gas, right? But that's causing some people some issues right now. And in the live I did it talked about how even in the recession, in the midst of it, it will not get any easier. And I had the data to show you why. It was actually I was excited for this talk. But I think there's that. And then what people struggle with right now is, in that talk, it talked about what people wanted from a job, right? And I think the struggle is it's doing all of those things, right? It's great pay, it's great culture, it's DEI, right? Diversity, equality, and inclusion. Like, how do I hit the nail on all those heads at the same time so that I can attract and keep? Because one of the biggest struggles we see at Woot Recruit is we can get you applicants all day long. But a lot of the companies, the employees are going right out the back door.
And do you think that's a culture thing?
They're not sticking. And so if you were to look at the stats that I had, it had first to do with pay and then culture next. And I think it's really hard for field service businesses to really grab onto that culture instead of like, I'm paying them, they should show up. Where the employee, the applicant still has the upper hand on us. They do. And in that talk I did, they said that the employee will have the upper hand on us for the next years to come, for the years to come, right? Until we adjust. And it's not a position we like to be in, because as visionaries or owners, we're used to being in control, but we don't have that control right now. We have to make sure that we're filling those buckets of competitive pay, great culture, positive. You can have culture, but it's positive culture. And then make sure your company's diverse, right? Equality, and there's no inclusion going on.
Yeah. So what they say that people's biggest problem is, recruiting talent and getting the right people in. But how much do you think they actually work on it? Like, I know it's their biggest problem, but how much do you think they actually do of recruiting?
And so that's probably one of their biggest struggles. The answer to your first question is because years prior, we just had to hire when we needed somebody, right? You put a job ad up on Indeed and you get 100 applicants, and you call a few and they show up. It doesn't work like that anymore. Well, Indeed also changed their platform, which didn't help us. It doesn't work like that anymore. And people still want to just hire when they need people. I'm staffed. We get this in Woot Recruit all day long. Turn off my ads. I'm staffed. And we're like, please don't. Let's just go organic. Let's just go softer. But don't turn it off, because people are quitting. It's still the great resignation that they want to call it. They're quitting in mass numbers.
So when you say to keep them recruiting, you mean like building out their bench, right?
Yes, keep that going. And if you pause it, have intention of when it's coming back on. Like, great, pause it for a week. We're out of town, but turn it back in on Monday. Not just pause it. We're overstaffed. I'll let you know. Typically, you're not going to know until 3 people quit and you're now behind the game. So it needs to be, and this is what a lot of people don't do. It needs to be part of your daily administrative routine. Someone needs to own this seat. It's not a full-time seat, but it needs to be part of your daily process. What are you doing in that recruiting seat today? And it should be something every day. It should be part of the daily process.
Yeah, for sure. So like, let's just say you have a couple A's in your team and a couple of B's in your team, and then, maybe you'll have a few C's. Do you think people fail right there? Like they think, oh, we're just we're staffed, we're good. But they should almost keep recruiting to either build that bench or replace those B's with A's and those C's with B's or A's. Am I correct?
Yeah. I was doing a call it was a lawn care mastermind group, and it wasn't a leader academy. It was a different one. And somebody goes, well, what if I'm staffed? Why do I need to keep hiring? And my answer, I had 2 answers for him. One, you don't have goals, right, to grow.
Right.
And the second one is, you're telling me everyone on your team is an A player? No, that's impossible. You're going to replace those people. And owners, so visionaries, I feel, should not be doing the hiring or the firing. We suck at it.
We're terrible.
We love people.
We do.
We love helping people. We love people, but we suck at it. And we don't want to fire anyone because we're nice.
Yep.
And so we get stuck with these C players, and we start to have apathy for our business because we don't even want to show up anymore.
For sure. So when you're recruiting people, what do you think the average ad spend is that you have them spend like a week or a month, or what are they typically seeing?
So I can't answer that question because it depends on your area. It depends on how many people you need. You could say, well, I only need 1 person, Libby, and then the other company needs 5. Hires. What I can say is, typically before COVID, we saw people spending like 0.5% of their revenue on recruiting. It was very small. It was very marginal, right? Indeed was cheap. You could do it organic, which they've actually taken that feature away. You can't even post organically anymore on Indeed. And then we've seen some non-WootRecruit customers come in spending as high as 7% of their revenue. Like, that almost sounds like a marketing budget, right?
Yeah. Because
customers were so easy to get. I didn't need to market so much, but employees were harder to get. So they put their money over there. So in my research, I don't have like factual data because I think it's so new, but in the articles that I've been able to find is some people are spending as much as 7 to 8% of their revenue in recruiting, which is super high. WootRecruit, we recommend 1 to 2% of your revenue just to put towards recruiting. That would include your cost of WootRecruit if you're a customer, or anything that, you're putting in that upfront issue to attract applicants. That does not have anything to do with your onboarding and your training pay or anything like that.
So about 1 to 2% of your annual revenue.
Yeah. Or of your monthly revenue if you have a monthly budget, right?
Yeah.
Because typically we're tracking that monthly.
Good stuff. You said you're in Georgia right now.
Yes, I'm in Georgia.
So this is one of your rental houses?
Yes. So we have a couple cabins in Georgia. This is one, and it's in Hiawassee, Georgia. They're just great places to get away. So I don't know about you, Jonas, but if I need to stop working on something, or if I need to take time off, I cannot stay in my home or even the town. Like, I can't stay in Fort Myers. So I have to remove myself from it to be able to take that, that whole time off. And so it's great for us to come up here. It allows me to stop working. Yes, I work on other projects, but it allows me for new creative ideas. Because if you feel burnt out as a visionary, if you're the owner of the company and you're that visionary and you feel burnt out, like, not burnt out, but if you feel like you've lost the visionary, there's no more ideas coming, like you used to have when you were smaller or you first started, it's because you're burnt out.
That's
you
why
need to take some time off.
That's why I asked. I obviously already knew that you weren't in Florida. It doesn't look like Florida, and you told me you were in Georgia. This is what I want to bring up on the podcast, because sometimes you just need to take a break. Like, and they say, whether it's right or wrong, 4 to 6 weeks a year, just to unplug and get away. And you always get way more done before you leave, and then you get time to just kind of get away and think and get more clear. And so I can't sit in my house either. Like, if I'm in my house or in my office, like, I'm working. If I'm in, like I said, if I'm in this town or the town next door, I'm just working. That's how I operate. So the fact that you get up and purposely get away for a week just to unwind and let your brain start working again is pretty awesome. And that's why I wanted to just talk about it on here.
It's where you get the best ideas from. So if you're feeling flat, like you don't have any, or you're just tired mentally, get away. Even if it's just 24 hours, go stay in a motel somewhere. You will, that visionary, inspirational flow comes back. And 6 weeks, yes, I took 6 weeks off over the summer.
Good for you. Another time that I think I do my best thinking is I'm driving down the road. So I'll literally get in my truck and I'll travel for 3 hours just to drive. And then I'll just have my phone with me, and I'll just leave notes on my phone as I'm driving down the road. It's just where I like to be, and I don't know why. But I put a lot of miles on my vehicle that way, but it don't matter. Just where I think. It's like my mobile office. Yeah. I'll listen to a book, and then it'll be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and write it down. And just kind of go over like my notes at the end of the trip. That works for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I do the same thing. I was on a Zoom call in the car, and somebody's like, are you in the car? I'm like, yeah, it's quiet in here, and I can think.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take much of your time. I know you're out at your cabin with your family, and I appreciate you being here. We talked about a lot of stuff. It's going on an hour right about now. I told you I'd keep it about an hour for you. But like I said, I really do appreciate you being here. I appreciate your friendship, and hopefully we'll continue for years to come. You're doing big things. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you.
I got to try to keep up with you.
Yeah, that's right. Watch out.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Libby.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pest Control Millionaire. If you are not already subscribed, we would really like if you did that. And please leave us a glowing review on iTunes. For the first 8 weeks that we have this show launched, we are going to give away a $50 Amazon gift card every week to a random person who gives us a nice review on iTunes. That's how important it is to us. Also, we want you to be involved with the show. Please send any questions you have about entrepreneurship, how to grow your business, anything about the service industry to info@pestcontrolmillionaire.com. We will answer them on the show. We have the best guests in the service industry, so why not get their take on your problems? Thanks for listening again, and we'll see you in the next one.